And just to show how this works out of the water, all it does is suction to the side of the boat, somewhat above the water line, and it just makes this deflection to push the water out. And these go on the opposite side of the wake that you're going to ride. So even if it does fall off, there's not really any concern of the rider interfacing with it. I think with the pretty smooth water flow, this should stay on pretty well. And then if it does peel off, it will be attached to this float, so we can just go back and get it. That should work out pretty nicely, I think. So yeah, let's give it a try. Hey everyone, it's been a while, but I'm back to do hopefully a pretty simple, pretty fun project. It's going to be making a wake shaper for a boat, a wakeboard boat. The point of a wake shaper is it sticks on one side and it adjusts the water behind the boat to make a wake that is much bigger and cleaner, which helps for wake surfing. And I just thought it would be a cool project. These things go for between probably $150 and $300 depending on the one that you get. And I'm going to try making one out of a couple of simple things for about $30. So if you are interested in making one of these, check links in the description. I'll post the two main pieces that I got from, and basically the pieces are a piece of high density polyethylene HDPE plastic. It's just what cutting boards are made out of, piece of plastic. And this is used for moving big pieces of glass. It's pretty much two suction cups, two very strong suction cups on a handle. This will be used and modified to mount a piece of this at an angle, which will be used to adjust the wake. And then the suction cups are going to be what helps it stick to a boat. The other things I have are some drill bits, a square, tape measure, marker. I'm going to use these construction screws to help assemble it. I found these two bolts with a washer and a flange nut on them that should be long enough to go through the handle and then also through both sides of the plastic, because there's going to be a support on each side, some glue, and then a drill to put the screws in and drill the holes. And then of course a couple of saws. This is a 12-inch by 24-inch piece, and the first thing that I'm going to do is cut it down to about 15 inches. That should make a pretty good fin, and then I'm going to use the remainder to make the supports that will mount to the handle. So let me get a line drawn on this and I'll show you where that's going to be, and then I'll cut it. Is it focused? Here's the line, about 15 inches from the edge. It's a relatively generic number, but I'm going to try it. And this whole setup is going to be about $30, so it's cheap enough to mess up and try again or experiment with. So we'll go with that. I just ripped it down on the table saw and made a nice, really straight, really clean cut. No melting or other weirdness. And this is going to be the main piece that is going to sit on the suction cups like this. I'm going to cut a diagonal across this, so I have two triangles. Those triangles are going to mount to the suction cups and be the support for the main piece. The next thing that I have to do is draw a guideline here for my two supports, and then I can go ahead and get those cut. Also for this, because this flap needs to be accessible to lock and unlock the suction cup, I'm just going to make a little cutout here, a hole here, just to have clearance to be able to access this. Here these pieces are with the next places to be cut. For this, I just measured the center line halfway with the distance. Then I found this cap, put two lines that are the width of the cap, use that to make a nice circle. Use the height of the lever just to gauge kind of what is the most that I might need. And then over here, these will be the supports. I just drew from one corner to the other corner. It's not a 45-degree angle, but I don't know how big a deal that is or isn't. Only one way to find out is to put it on the boat and surf behind it. I'm going to try to cut this on a chop saw, this on the bandsaw. Alright, so the bandsaw worked out pretty well, except I think I have a broken tooth on the blade, but that's okay. I also noticed that if it makes this rough edge, you can take a razor blade and just clean it up. My chop saw did really nice for most of it, but the blade wasn't quite big enough to get through the entire piece. So I'm going to have to finish this last little bit on the bands. The important thing here is that I have a really straight, nice surface for at least most of the supports. So if this is a little bit wavy or whatever, I don't think that's going to make too much of a difference. What I didn't want is trying to do this on the bandsaw and having a wobbly line all the way down that wouldn't sit flat at all on this supporting piece. And then just for another visual as we get closer, this needs to be widened potentially. We'll see how it fits with the supports, but it's basically going to sit like this. So this will allow use of that, and then once it's stuck on the side of the boat, it will just be a big fin that will deflect water. I'm gonna get this cut without cleaning off more of the line. These are now apart. You can see what I mean about having a terrible cut with the bandsaw, but you can also see what I mean by using the chop saw, having a nice mating surface. So these are actually going to go like this, and then this handle is going to be attached like this, and then the whole thing is going to get suction cupped to the boat. Okay, so I decided to try to attach both of these to this before trying to attach it to this. I found that this width is the same as a 2x piece of lumber, or at least close enough. So I have these clamped that distance, that's holding them parallel to each other. And then I measured this distance down here as well as this distance up here. That makes sure that it's square. And then I did the same on the other side to make sure that it's even halfway. And I think it's at least close enough. And then what I did now is I just, with the Sharpie again, drew some guidelines. So now that when I take this off, I know roughly where it was. And what I'm going to do next is put some glue on it. I also might drill several holes in here in preparation for using some of these screws before I glue it. All right. I drew some inside guidelines just to help me, and I used this bit, which is just slightly smaller than the screw, and I'm going to use a smaller one for these, but I didn't want to have to do too much work to get through this piece before I got into this piece. So I just drilled 6 holes here, and then I used this larger bit with the idea that I would counter sink it on the other side for the shape of the head. And it worked for 5 of them, and then I got a little ambitious with this was actually the first one, so I don't know how well that's going to work. The head doesn't fit in the hole, so between that and the other 5, I think it should be fine. But like I said, it's kind of all an experiment. Now I'm going to throw some glue in these tracks and drop this on. I used some 120 grit sandpaper just to take some of the shine off the plastic to give the glue something to bite to. I mixed up this epoxy per the instructions and put a generous helping on each one of the strips. Then I have this all kind of queued up, and I just dropped it on, and hopefully it says 5 minute set time, so we'll give this a few minutes. It's been a bit more than 5 minutes, but I think as promised, this glue has set. The only thing I wanted the glue for was to help me be a second pair of hands while I put these screws in. Once I put the screws in, I'm not worried about it. What I did is I have a drill bit that's this size, just slightly smaller than the size of this screw, and I put a piece of guide tape on it just so I don't have to do any more drilling than is necessary in this plastic. And then I will be putting 6 of these screws in. And then the next step is going to be mounting this entire thing onto this. Either that piece of wood is screwed to the plastic now, or I got it pretty well attached. What I did is I'm going to drill through both of these first, and then I'm going to mark where those holes land on this, and then I'm going to drill this later, because this is aluminum, so it'll be tougher to do kind of all in one piece. But because I wanted to make sure that I was landing in the meat of this triangle, I just held it up and kind of traced it on there. So now I'm going to drill with this bit, probably because it's the same size as the bolt that I plan on using, which will fit through everything quite nicely. All right, it was a little bit tricky and it was a little bit sloppy. You can see the angle of that, but I didn't break through the support material and the bolts are through there, so I would call that a success so far. Next thing I'm gonna do is put some blue thread locker in a red container because this one's already open, but nice thick coating on that. And then there's only one more thing to do. All right, now it's official. I think it looks pretty much like anything else you can buy. I can't wait to try it out. I guess probably at the beginning of this video will be the testing of this, so you've already seen that. Hopefully it works. It looks like it's going to be a nice success. If it's not a success, then it's really just a $30 experiment for the sake of YouTube. So I think that's always worth it as well. And hopefully I'll do a test on this as well. This may float, which will be really handy. It would be really nice if this floats. So since this doesn't float, I just drilled a hole in one of the supports and attached a buoy to it. So now if it falls off, it will just casually float in the water and we can go and get it. I don't want to leash it to the boat directly because if it does fall off, I don't want it to get thrashed around until we stop and potentially break. I figure this is pretty calm to just let it go and circle back and pick it up again, because chances are we're going to have to do that with whoever's riding anyway, because I'm sure it's going to get knocked off or fall off at some point. All that said, hopefully you enjoyed this quick project, and if you make one of these and have a boat and wake surf, definitely let me know what you did different or if it works for you. I think that would be very cool. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like this. Definitely leave any comments in the below if you have any. Hit the thumbs up. Check out the description for the links. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but I hit 50,000 subscribers, which is absolutely incredible. I thank each and every one of you. I couldn't have done it without you. I think that's just absolutely amazing. I know I keep saying this. I'm going to try to get more content out there, this is a start. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.